Hans Komp, Melissa Farmer, and Sam Nelson would like to introduce Red Rover, a passion project for mechatronics at BYU. Something we are super proud of. Glad that it's over, but also glad that it happened.
A lot of our hardware is 3D printed, like all of our mounts, and our ball catcher over here, we 3D printed it so that the edges are round, so the ball falls into the center. We also made it wide to account for any variability. We also 3D printed a little garage door that moves with our servo motor. Over here, we 3D printed a mount for our servo motor. We also 3D printed a little mount for the photodiode and the laser so that these wires wouldn't get squished. One thing that we would have done differently is 3D printed these mounts at the front. They're currently just out of wood, but we would have 3D printed them because the wood split.
This is one of the 3D printed parts for our robot. The purpose is to hold the blue servo that would open the door for our ball catcher. This horizontal piece was mounted to the robot board itself, and the blue servo would be inserted into this rectangular hole. This is so that the door could have free range of motion. This is one of our old designs for the ball catcher. We had just kind of a diagonal straight piece. We noticed that when we were running on the second task, the ball receiving, oftentimes if it wasn't lined up perfectly, it would just run into that slant, and then as the ball drove away, it would just fall off the back. So we cupped that out, as Melissa had mentioned earlier.
Something else we would have changed about our robot is we would have made our robot smaller. We ended up having a lot of extra space on here, and if our robot was smaller, it would have been able to navigate the canyon with more clearance. We also would have used these analog sensors for canyon navigation right away instead of trying to use the sharp IR sensors, because the other sensors we tried didn't work very well. They would behave as if they were detecting something when there was nothing. One last thing that we would have also changed is we would have put the QRD for our task detection at the back of our robot. Earlier, our task detection was really inconsistent because sometimes the robot would be coming around a curve and it would just change things. It would make the robot a little more jittery. And so if the QRD was at the back of the robot would always be driving straight, and that would make things more consistent.
One of the unique things in our code is how we chose to count lines for tasks. If our QRD for task detection saw a white line, this count lines function would get called and held here for the amount of time it would take to see 4 lines. While in this function, if the QRD went low, it would first increment the number of lines and then pause and stay in this while loop while it was still low, so it didn't increment again until the QRD had seen black, so that it didn't overcount the number of white lines. We found this a lot easier to set up than trying to do a change interrupt. Another unique part is this exit canyon function. Instead of trying to turn exactly 90 degrees upon exiting the canyon, we had this function where the robot rolled forward up above, and then here it turned until our middle QRD for line following was on that white line again, so that if we came out of the canyon at the wrong angle, it would still turn and correctly get back onto the white line so that it could continue with line following.
Thanks for watching, Dr. Colton.
Oh, I don't think it got it.
No. You rat.